Welcome to the Week 1 preview from GoGamecocks.com and the state newspaper. I'm Josh Kendall. This is David Cloninger. David, South Carolina plays on a Thursday night. Thursday nights have been pretty good to Steve Spurrier. Season openers have been pretty good to Steve Spurrier. 23-2 in his career. And South Carolina started playing on Thursday night when Steve Spurrier got here. ESPN came to him and said, hey, we'd like you, big deal, we'd like you to play on ESPN. If you do, we'll put you on Thursday night, the first Thursday night of the season, forever if you want. Apparently it was the deal that they made, and they have. We've seen a lot of Thursday night games. South Carolina folks love it, I think, because like everybody else, they're ready for college football to start. Like you and me, they're ready for college football to start, and the Gamecocks start about 3 days earlier than most people. Bank of America Stadium, Charlotte, North Carolina. The North Carolina Tar Heels, what do we know about them?
I'll tell you, Josh, I really think South Carolina, as we discussed during the season preview, they'd probably prefer a little bit easier opponent considering all the issues with South Carolina team. But North Carolina is kind of a similar team to South Carolina. Each team had a very bad defensive year. Last season, North Carolina finished ranked number 117 out of 125. South Carolina was 92 out of 125. So each of them have made defensive changes. North Carolina brought in Gene Chizik, former national championship coach at Auburn, to kind of restructure their defense. And while we haven't heard a lot out of Tar Heel camp, you kind of get the feeling that they're doing what South Carolina's doing, getting back to a base defense, making sure everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what they're doing, and see how it goes from there. With North Carolina, you know, their defense, I think they're maybe taking it a little bit easier. They know they probably don't have to be perfect because North Carolina's offense is very, very strong. They returned 9 starters, including the head of the snake and quarterback Marquise Williams. He can run. He ran for almost 800 yards on the ground and 13 touchdowns last year, and he also threw for over 1,000 yards and did very well. He's got a fleet of tailbacks to hand off to, and T.J. Logan and Romar Morris and Elijah Hood, and he's got a fleet of great receivers to throw it, led by Gaffney's Quinshad Davis. In fact, Josh, everybody that either carried or threw the ball for North Carolina last year is back on the team, and they've got 5 of their top 6 receivers returning.
That's not bad for Larry Fedora, who made his bones on offense.
Oh, absolutely, you know, and just to have that kind of stability from an offense that averaged about 33 points a game last year, it's going to be very handy. So they're going to be testing out this South Carolina defense right away. That's just kind of the quick capsule glance at North Carolina. Really good offense, questions on defense. You can see the South Carolina comparisons. So looking at the Gamecocks, Josh, what are the 2 biggest questions that they have to answer?
It's tough to pick only 2, but I guess if you're looking at the biggest ones, it's Connor Mitch, the quarterback, and it's that defense. Connor Mitch makes his first start. The next pass he throws will be his 7th attempt as a college player. What to expect? Nobody knows how he's going to play when the lights are really on. He's a 4-star recruit. Alabama wanted him. LSU wanted him. He's 6'3". He can make the throws. I think that there are reasons to believe that he will play well. You just don't know. He's got to process the information quickly when things are moving at top speed, and he's got to be able to make good decisions. If he can't, he'll drive Steve Spurrier crazy, and he won't play long.
And the thing is who are you going to go to in that scenario? There's nobody in terms of experience to hand it off to except for Pharaoh Cooper.
And if you're Connor Mitch, and you know, I'd feel much better about Connor Mitch or any quarterback if you were plugging him into an offense where you had all your questions answered at wide receiver and all your questions answered at running back and all your questions answered at offensive line. But I think for South Carolina, you've got running backs who need to prove they can carry an offense. You've got to find wide receivers other than Pharaoh Cooper. Your offensive line, I think the front 5 is fine. The next 5, that could get rough.
That front 5 needs to stay in there. I believe we looked at the depth chart today, and 4 of the primary backups are true freshmen, or guys that haven't played much. So that line has got to stay healthy.
And Connor Mitch is going to have to do some of it himself. Then you turn to South Carolina's defense. John Hoke, like Gene Chizik, has got a big job. Do I think John Hoke is a miracle worker? No, just like I don't think Gene Chizik is a miracle worker, but I think they're both good football coaches. And I think as much as anything else, the embarrassment of last season has motivated this team, this defense, to play better. They've just got to tackle better. They say they're going to tackle better. They've got to have fewer blown assignments. Lorenzo Ward said they've had fewer in practice, which should correlate to fewer in the games. I think that this will be a much more sound defense. What we don't know and won't know until Thursday night is, are they going to be a playmaking defense that's going to get turnovers like John Hoke has asked them to do over and over and over. Now's the time you've all been waiting for. We're going to make our predictions sure to go right. I think I was 12-0. We were both 12-0 last year.
13
13-0 as I remember it. David, your key to the game, and who do you think wins?
Well, Josh, you mentioned it. With Connor Mitch's, it's just inexperience. Right. There's no other way to overcome that so to get him out there. So the key to the game: run the ball and stick with it. I have no doubt that Steve Spurrier and his offensive coaches are saying, let's not throw too much at this guy because he is young, he is learning. You don't want to overwhelm him to where one mistake becomes several mistakes. So you want to run the ball with Brandon Wiles and David Williams and whoever else you can. The main thing that they've got to do, stay with it. If you get behind, keep running the ball because it keeps North Carolina's offense off the field. It runs the clock, and it'll probably be your most consistent source of offense. We've all seen Steve Spurrier throughout covering him. He gets behind right away and he feels, I got to even it up. I got to go ahead and make this score even. I don't want to be 2 scores behind. That might not be the best course of action on Thursday night. So key to the game, run the ball and stick with it. That being said, I just think that with this game, there's probably going to be a little more South Carolina fans than North Carolina fans. I think that with all of the unknowns, there's going to be a very good unknown. Who knows where that'll be, but it will go in South Carolina's favor. I think it'll be a close one, but just like last year, the right leg of Elliott Fry will preserve the Gamecocks' chances to win. South Carolina 27, North Carolina 24.
I think it's going to be close, too. I think it would be foolish for any of us to think one way or the other that this game is going to be a blowout because, as we've mentioned, both of these teams have questions, and they're pretty similar questions. I think it's going to come down to turnovers. I think it's a first game. You've got Thursday night. You've got jitters. You've got a lot of new guys in new places. South Carolina cannot turn the ball over. South Carolina's receivers have to make the easy catches for first down, not just turnovers, but if you drop an easy pass on 3rd and 6, that's a turnover in my book. You've got to keep the chains moving. And you've got to hold on to the football. I think South Carolina wins. I think it's going to take these defenses a little longer in the season, both of them, to settle in. So I think we're looking at about a 38-31 game. Should be an exciting night in Bank of America Stadium. I also think South Carolina starts 1-0 and is able to officially bury the 2014 season. We'll be with you until then and right through game time at GoGamecocks.com.